ballsy thinking, the gender agnostic antidote to sloppy thinking. Well, hello and welcome to another vlog where we try to give some actionable comment or intelligence on things that affect trade. So it could be local trade or indeed more broadly international trade. And today I want to talk about the situation in China with respect to doing due diligence on partners that you may be thinking of doing there, or working with there. It's always been a bit of a difficult topic, and when I ran CheckSure and the Global Business Information Network, I tried to reach out to people who had credit checking facilities in China, and it's always very difficult. You're not allowed to do personal checks. I mean, the same as here. If you can't, you can dig on people, but clearly it's in China that's an absolute no-no, and you can end up in jail. So how do you actually find out what's going on out there at the moment? Well, it's getting increasingly difficult. As you know, Bain, Mint's offices, these are companies who actually do the type of due diligence that I'm referring to on local companies. You know, basic commercial stuff, and you know, what business are they in, who runs them, not necessarily going into details about that, but who owns them even. So it's become much more difficult. There was always, I think, an understanding among the by the CCP before the previous leader, Xi, that this was a prerequisite to getting Western investment, because no one's going to sort of cough up millions of pounds into a Chinese investment unless they have some basic understanding of what's going on. So in the old days, of course, in the very early days, you'd got people like Jim Rogers, who used his motorcycle. I think it was 22 months and 52 countries that he rode his motorcycle on, and now he's a multi-billionaire based in Singapore. And it was that sort of information that he could get, where he would use what he found by driving around to see what was going on in China and other countries, the emerging markets. I mean, that's back in 1994. So the situation has actually got much more serious now. The CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, are really cracking down on the sort of companies who provide this sort of information, and doing research at all is made more difficult by the new CCP legislation on what constitutes espionage. And effectively, they can construe everything to be espionage. The State Department now have a warning. If you travel to China, they've just opened up after the COVID restrictions that you could be taken into custody. We saw a couple of Canadians brought into custody, but that was sort of more of a tit for tat because of the Huawei situation, where the CFO of Huawei was arrested in Canada. But there are ways. You know, one of the best ways is if you look at YouTube, funnily enough, because there are aggregators of what's going on at a micro level in YouTube, who actually do a fantastic job of telling you, you know, how many people are being employed or made unemployed, particularly in the southern provinces near Hong Kong. And of course the container ports, they do fantastic videos of aggregating stuff on WeChat, Weebay and all the rest of these social media channels in China. They grab them, screenshot them or record them, and then they put some commentary about it and actually turn it into English. So that's a really good way if you're going into China and you're looking to do some trade there, to see, or indeed even if you're in the FX market looking to trade the yuan or the renminbi, then clearly there's some fantastic stuff out there, and I'll put the links below. But what really is clear, even before you see the statistics, is that China is having trouble rebooting. The Western orders that went into China are definitely diminishing, and stuff's being moved out to Vietnam and to Indonesia, so other countries in the region. And you know, that's confirmed. Even the Chinese Communist Party really can't completely hide these things, because if you look at the latest trade statistics and so on, you can see some of the issues emerging. And of course, it's causing unemployment. There's the lie flat movement in China, and if you don't know what that is, type it into a search engine, which is really extraordinary. And it's going to be a bit of a crisis time for China. So if you've got manufacturing out there, and I've obviously done work out there, I'll be going to Hong Kong shortly to have a look, which I'll post on this channel. But basically, the statistics that you see coming out of China, and more importantly, the due diligence for the bigger deals that needs to be done before investors put any money in is not a viable option anymore. And I think this is going to cause an even bigger and faster decline in commerce with China. And that may be inevitable as we head into this sort of technological, hopefully non-kinetic war that seems to be being waged between the United States and China, with the sanctions, for example, on chips technology being transferred. The Chinese now having the most patents ever in the world in terms of commercial patents. And so these things are all in the sort of micro data that you can find all over the place, and I've given you a couple of examples of where you might find this stuff, or I will do in the links below. So if you're a trader, keep for information which affects both local and international viability of your business. Thanks. Ballsy thinking, the gender agnostic antidote to sloppy thinking.